Chapter 61, Black Wind Mountain Range. Only martial artists assigned to monster suppression can access the full territory's intelligence, Kwai Fan explained. The monster suppressors, although leading teams to eliminate demons, were specifically responsible for rural villages and towns. However, Kwai Fan wasn't rejecting Li Hao's request. With a smile, his tone softened. But since you've come all this way, eager to hunt demons, I cannot refuse. Please, follow me. He led Li Hao and his group into a side room within the monster suppression department. There, they were greeted by familiar guards, and after a brief exchange, they entered. The room contained a map of the geomantic chart of Kangyu City, showing dozens of small towns and villages in the area. Kwai Fan pulled out a record book and handed it to Li Hao. This is the demon hunting record for Kangyu City over the last 6 months. Take your time reviewing it. Do you like this personality? After lunch, Kwai Fan cheerfully announced, I'll take you all on a patrol this afternoon. Li Hao opened the record book, his focus sharp as he began reading intently. Li Yuanzhao, intrigued, leaned in to examine the pages as well. Meanwhile, within a lavish estate on the city's outskirts, a young curvaceous beauty lay lounging, flipping through an account book. She spoke to the keeper by her side. The demon calamities have been relentless this year, and the tenant farmers' crops are failing. Please tell my husband to ease their tax burden. They're suffering too much. The account keeper paused, bowing slightly. Madam, your compassion is noted, but with many businesses also struggling this year, any further tax reduction will hurt the estate's income. She calmly responded, We can make do with less. The beautiful lady softly spoke, Let the farmers have a good year, her voice as gentle as a breeze. The account keeper nodded, saying, I'll discuss it with the master. The maid, her delicate features reflecting concern, added, Madam, you're pregnant and have been reviewing the accounts all morning. You must be tired. Please rest now. The lady tenderly caressed her belly, eyes full of love, before she closed the account book. With the maid's help, she slowly rose and returned to her bedroom. I'll bring you some snacks, the maid said, as she helped the lady settle on the bed. The lady nodded, her gaze soft. As the maid left and the door clicked shut, the lady gently touched her stomach, whispering, Child, the new year is near. Soon I will be able to meet you. Her eyes shimmered with expectation, the gentle anticipation in her heart as clear as the water's surface. Hee, you're eager to meet me, aren't you? A sudden, sharp voice echoed through the stillness of the room. A child's voice, strange and unnerving. The lady snapped out of her reverie, her gaze darting to her swollen belly. The voice, unmistakably clear, came from deep within her 8-month pregnant belly. Before she could grasp what was happening, her belly swelled, growing impossibly large, sending waves of excruciating pain through her. Then, with a violent pop, it burst open, not with blood, but deflating like a balloon. A small, withered head, stained with fresh blood, slowly emerged. Behind it, a long, twisting limb, serpentine and centipede-like, writhed gently, its movement unsettling. In a state of absolute horror, the lady, despite her years of poise, let out a scream and collapsed, her senses fading. The grotesque head chuckled, its mouth splitting wide, revealing sharp, menacing teeth. How hypocritical! Your child has come out, yet you turn away. The creature moved swiftly, its grotesque form climbing the beautiful lady's body before sinking its teeth into her head. In an instant, it began swallowing her upper body, its limbs swelling as it did so. But just as it was about to finish, a voice rang out with fury. Evil spawn! A flash of golden light cut through the air and a slender figure appeared, moving gracefully through the wall. It was Song Yueyao, her presence commanding yet serene. The creature froze mid-devour, its expression twisting with alarm. It quickly spat out the half-eaten woman and, like a venomous snake, slithered toward the window, desperate to flee. Golden Lock Trapping Dragon! Song Yueyao's voice was icy, and with a swift incantation, she cast her divine binding spell. The Golden Lock Trapping Dragon, a technique of the divine travel skill, wrapped around the creature, halting its escape. Though the divine soul couldn't inflict physical harm, its powers were unmatched when confronting dark, demonic arts. The creature struggled, trapped in the divine spell, its escape thwarted by the force of Song Yueyao's command. Golden light erupted, ensnaring the withered, serpentine demon, trapping it in an unbreakable prison. Footsteps echoed urgently, and a figure appeared at the window, leaping down, sword drawn, to strike at the demon. "Please, spare me," it pleaded in fear, but there was no mercy. The sword cleaved through the air, decapitating the creature and reducing its body to mere fragments. Without hesitation, the figure entered the room, only to be met with the sight of a woman's face, grotesquely disfigured and decaying. Her stomach was hollowed, the organs devoured. The damage was irreversible, too late to save her. Her expression darkened with a mix of fury and regret. Though a seasoned demon slayer, the rage within her was undeniable. Moments later, the household servants rushed in, followed by the master of the house, a middle-aged merchant. She swiftly ordered the room sealed off, ensuring that no one outside would witness the horrors within. "You are from the Monster Suppression Department?" The merchant, recognizing the uniform of the approaching official, addressed Tian Kongji with a sense of familiarity. His face twisted in shock as he rushed forward, urgently asking, "What about her? What has happened to her?" A cold voice answered, "There is a demon inside. Do not approach." Tian Kongji, a disciple of Black Hall, had witnessed the horror inside and spoke with a tone heavy with sorrow. "How can there be a demon in my home? Are you sure you are not mistaken? Let me see her!" The master pushed past Tian, his teeth grinding as he demanded answers. Then, from behind a door, Song Yueyao appeared, her sword now sheathed. She met his gaze with a detached look and spoke, "Your wife is dead, killed by a creature. I have already dealt with it. You should give her a proper burial." "Dead? Dead?" The master was so shocked, he froze in place before desperately trying to rush inside. Tian Kongji, unwilling to use force on an ordinary person, struggled to hold him back. Seeing this, Song Yueyao gave a slight shake of her head, signaling him to step aside. He had to see her. There were still burial arrangements to be made. The middle-aged man burst into the room and froze at the sight of the horrific scene before him. Song Yueyao turned to Tian Kongji and instructed, "Stay here and handle everything. I need to visit the city guard." "Understood," he replied. "Is this conversation helpful so far?" Before Song Yueyao could walk away, the middle-aged man suddenly grabbed her arm, his eyes burning with fury as he screamed, "Why didn't you come sooner? Why? Give me back my Lianer!" His voice shattered the stillness of the air. Song Yueyao's face twitched in response. Instinctively, she broke free, swinging her arm with force, sending the man crashing to the ground. He sat there with a heavy thud, but didn't continue his outburst. Instead, he collapsed, clutching his head, sobbing uncontrollably. She said it was her first time being a mother, even picking out the child's name. Why did you do this to Lianer? Oh heavens, how cruel you are! His wails reverberated through the courtyard, reaching the ears of the servants and maids waiting outside, leaving them shaken. A pang of guilt surged in Song Yueyao's chest as she watched the man, nearly broken by grief. She knew her words would fall on deaf ears, so she tightened her grip on her sword, said nothing, and swiftly turned to leave. Was there not more she could have done? The question lingered as she bit her lip, a faint shadow of regret passing through her. Inside the city lord's mansion, Song Yueyao arrived swiftly, her movements quick and precise. "Mr. Yue, you wanted to see me?" she asked as she noticed the city guard who was responsible for the safety of Kangyu City. Yue Shuhong, a man in his 40s, radiated cultured elegance. His gaze lingered on the young woman before him, a flash of emotion crossing his features. She had reached the divine travel realm at such a young age, nearing perfection, a stark contrast to his own standing. "Governor Song, you've worked tirelessly, slaying demons since yesterday. We owe you so much for protecting our town from disaster," Yu Shuhong said with a light laugh. Song Yueyao, having just come from the residence, looked somber as she replied, "Exterminating demons is the duty of martial artists like us. It's nothing." Yue Shuhong, a man seasoned in leadership and skilled at reading people, respected Governor Song for his straightforwardness, free from flattery. His expression grew serious as he explained the recent troubling developments. Governor Song must have seen the reports about the recent surge in monster appearances in our city. Over the past 6 months, these creatures have become a constant threat. A week and a half ago, a horde gathered in the Black Wind mountain range, about 100 miles east. Every caravan that passed by has been destroyed. He spread a geomantic chart across the table, pointing to the mountains on the eastern side. "I sent men to investigate, but we lost 4 hunters just gathering information." His gaze hardened. "Among these monsters is a great demon. Its goal is to unite the smaller demons and consume the entire Kangyu City. Song Yueao was stunned, her face drained of color. The thought of millions of lives in Kangyu City being at the mercy of a demon's wrath was terrifying. This was no ordinary threat, not even at the borders. "Have you informed the Xia family yet?" Song Yueao inquired sharply. The Xia family, one of the 4 great divine generals, had always held influence over Qi state. Yue Shuhong's expression faltered, and with a sigh he replied, "I did, but they are currently tied up in another battle. They advised us to wait until the demon strikes, then they'll send help. They want us to stop chasing shadows." A surge of anger flashed in Song Yueao's eyes, though she restrained herself, aware that criticizing the Divine General Mansion could lead to complications for Tan Palace. She then asked, "Is this information reliable?" Yue Shuhong's face grew serious as he affirmed, "It's true, of course, but I can't be entirely certain. If possible, could you, Governor Song, request the Xia family's aid?" Song Yueao frowned, feeling no particular connection to the city guard and unwilling to be used as a pawn. After a moment of thought, she answered, "I hold the title of governor, but I may not have the influence to convince them to act." With a determined gaze, she said, "I'll investigate the situation first." Yue Shuhong, seeming to expect this, nodded thoughtfully. "All right, should I accompany you? The Blackwind Mountain Range is too dangerous with a great demon lurking there." "No need," she replied. "I'll just scout the perimeter." Without another word, she turned and left. Yu Shuhong watched her leave, his expression growing solemn as a heavy sigh escaped him. Meanwhile, in the Monster Suppression Department, Li Hao had just finished reviewing the latest monster slaying reports, his eyes narrowing as he noticed a troubling detail. "Blackwind Mountain Range, a gathering of monsters," he muttered. The food at the Monster Suppression Department was excellent, and even those like Li Yuanzhao, accustomed to mountain delicacies, ate heartily. As Kui-fan aptly put it, "We demon slayers face life-threatening dangers every day, so we can't afford to go hungry, can we?" After a hearty meal, they rested for a while. Then, Kui-fan unfolded the map to show Li Hao and the others the area they would patrol that afternoon, asking them to prepare and assemble outside. This location had previously shown signs of demon activity, which had been handled, but now they needed to check for any missed details. It was the perfect opportunity to bring along newcomers. When the time came to gather, Kui-fan noticed only Li Yuanzhao and Ren Xianxia had arrived, causing him to ask in surprise, "Where's the last one?" Li Yuanzhao answered, "Hao told us he went to the outhouse and asked us not to wait for him. He also said you can score him however you see fit." Kui-fan couldn't help but laugh wryly. A young master from a prominent family was here merely for amusement, not to take things seriously. After all, in this world, those who took everything too seriously were the ones who ended up losing. "Do you like this personality? All right then," he spoke, his voice calm but deliberate. Kui-fan led the group quietly, his mind already racing to come up with a way to give the young master a perfect score. There was no way he could mark anything less. Even if he had to fake it, it was better to be accused of carelessness than to fail in such an important task. After all, while the young master's future was uncertain due to his studies, Kui-fan's own job was on the line. Kangyu City, surrounded by mountains on all sides, was nestled on the edge of a massive river. To the east, a sprawling mountain range stretched for miles, its peaks shrouded in mist, casting an eerie shadow over the land even during the day. The thick forest seemed to hold secrets in the cool, damp air. Scattered villages lay at the foot of the mountains, where hunters made their living off the land, relying on the forests for sustenance. And in this quiet, distant place, the first to know the truth was often not the wise or the strong, but the one who understood the pulse of nature itself. The hunters who lived off the land knew the mountain's dangers best. After several brave hunters defied superstitions and were found dismembered, no one dared venture beyond the foothills, not even to gather firewood. But now, a lone figure soars through the air above the mountain range, speeding forward with a purpose. Clad in black attire from the Monster Suppression Department, it is none other than Li Hao. His journey to the Blackwind Mountain Range is not for mere patrols or academic credits. Those don't interest him. He doesn't need the rewards from the Black and White Hall, his family already holds them. The real reason he's here is to track down a demon thief Tiger Robe Immortal. As Li Hao moves through the mountain range, he notices the flicker of demons below, spirits, and monsters lurking among the trees, all while his mind stays focused on his goal. In the heart of the Black Wind Mountain range, the faint demonic auras of minor demons drift like distant whispers. Only when one reaches the soul succession realm can they sense these energies, glimpsing the subtle presence of demon. Through the perspective of the divine soul, the energies of heaven and earth appear as a delicate, snow-like accumulation upon all things. Time is Kieslowly. This ethereal chi becomes firmly entrenched in the bamboo, rocks, and even the creatures of the land, though it remains a faint mist. In contrast, the chi of martial artists is vivid and powerful, often resembling the blaze of a fire, shifting in color depending on the cultivation technique they follow. Those of the divine travel realm, or even the 15 Li realm, radiate an intensity that can be felt from afar, their chi resembling stars that shine bright. Demons, too, possess this energy, though those trained in Taoist arts often conceal their demonic aura, blending seamlessly with the world. In this moment, amidst the mountains, various faint auras drift like silent whispers of unseen forces, leaving their mark on the land. A golden light bursts from the top of Li Hao's head, his divine soul extending outward, seeking out the hidden truths. Deep within the mountain range, he found himself before a cave, its entrance framed by jagged rocks. Leaning against a massive boulder, a towering demon, half man and half bear, loomed ominously. Scattered around, its feet were bleached bones, and beneath it, human skins lay in tatters, emitting a stench of corruption. Beside it, bizarre figures lingered: an eerie Stillnessa serpentine woman with a beguiling face, a reptilian creature with a decayed head, and a grotesque monster with the legs of a white baby attached to a centipede's body. "Great demon of mighty strength," hissed the serpent woman, her eyes glinting with hunger. "Our forces are ready: over 20,000 demons, 800 spirits, and 25 capable of transformation. The Red Eyebrow Taoist stands ready to strike. Kangyu City will fall." Another ancient creature, frail and wiry, cackled with dark glee. "Once we feast, the escape route through Wangchuan Mountain is clear. We move when the moment is right." A tense silence followed, the demons biding their time for the perfect moment to strike. Is this conversation helpful so far? The bear demon's face was filled with wild energy, yet its voice remained eerily calm. "We'll strike once the Red Eyebrow Taoist leads the others from the north. That man from Yue sent a message to the Xia family half a month ago, but luckily, the Red Eyebrow Taoist had a way to handle it. The Xia family won't be a problem for now." It grinned, clearly satisfied. "After all this time, we finally get to feast how satisfying." Then it added, "The meat from that man from Yue has been getting worse. This time, I must eat him." The wolf demon scoffed. "Hey, not your turn." The tiger robe immortal already reserved him. The bear demon shot a cold glance at the wolf demon. "You is Tiger Robe's brother, only he gets to take him." The wolf demon chuckled nervously. Of course, how could I compete with Tiger Robe for food? As they bantered, the bear demon suddenly sensed something and turned toward the woods. A young man in dark clothing, a sword at his waist, brushed aside the roadside weeds, slowly entering the mountain territory. At that moment, the other demons noticed too, realizing a human had managed to approach so closely without their detection. Li Hao's gaze swept across the countless demons before him, their powerful auras barely contained, flickering like candles in the dark. The sight before him was nothing short of hellish, a massacre of innocent lives that left his heart heavy with disbelief. "So many demons," he whispered, struggling to grasp the magnitude of the slaughter. His attire marked him as a mere monster suppression envoy, but the demons couldn't help but pause, curious at his audacity to appear before them. One old demon, short and with a peculiar high-pitched laugh, hopped toward him, inspecting him closely. Are you here to deliver the meat supply? But that was already brought a few days ago, and you're not carrying any meat with you," he said, eyeing Li Hao suspiciously. The meaning behind the meat supply was all too clear to Li Hao. Li Hao froze, the weight of the words sinking in. Delivering meat? His mind raced, a chill creeping up his spine as the implications dawned on him. With a steady gaze, he surveyed the demons around him, his voice cutting through the silence. "Which of you is the Tiger Robe Immortal?" The demons stared, confused, before one of them, the gaunt old man, grinned maliciously. "You've got guts, boy. Aren't you afraid of us?" Li Hao's response was slow but deliberate. his hand resting on the hilt of his demon-slaying sword. Afraid? Number. You should be the ones afraid. You're surrounded, and yet you don't run. The words barely left his lips before the demons erupted in laughter. They found his bravado amusing after all. He was just a young boy. But their laughter quickly faded as they took in the scene. At least 20 shape-shifting great demons, and yet this boy dared to stand tall, unflinching. In the demon race, only those in the divine travel realm could shapeshift, while those in the 15 Li realm could fully transform, hiding their demon forms without a trace. Kid, are you terrified? Even that old Yue Shuheng wouldn't dare disrespect us, laughed the demoness with the snake-like body. So, who exactly is the Tiger Robe Immortal? Li Hao asked once more. Ignoring his question, the demoness flicked her tongue in annoyance and approached him. What do you want with Tiger Robe? The giant bear asked calmly. Li Hao, spinning the blade in his hand, responded, just borrowing its head to honor my uncle's heroic spirit. Realizing his overcaution, the giant bear whispered to the other demons, eat him. The seductive demoness, sensing the moment, quickly slithered toward the young man, her sweet smile twisting into something far more dangerous. Her voice dripped with temptation. Come, step closer, let me claim you. The air thickened with demonic energy as she revealed a monstrous, bloody maw, her beauty distorted by grotesque hunger. With her bewitching powers at full force, even those with the strength of the soul succession realm were drawn toward her, their minds in a trance, crawling toward her mouth as if it was their only desire. But just then, a dark flash cut through the air. The demoness's mouth, still wide open, was suddenly torn away, blood spurting from the wound. The onlooking demons froze in shock as the emaciated old man, who had nearly reached the young man, stood still, dumbfounded. The demon-slaying blade had vanished from the young man's hand, only to reappear hanging in midair. A streak of dark light flashed as it carved an arc through the air, severing the heads of several great demons without giving them a moment to react. The change had happened too quickly for them to comprehend, and with that, the young man's voice rang out. Since none of you will speak, I have no choice but to end you all. Using you as a sacrificial altar works too, Li Hao muttered under his breath, his voice carrying the weight of determination. The black demon-slaying blade hovered in midair, its relentless charge only intensifying. 15 Li Realm! The demons froze, panic taking over as they saw the blade's power surge. What kind of monster is he? They whispered in fear, scattering in all directions. But their movements were futile, too slow to escape the blade's reach. Li Hao's control stretched far beyond their comprehension. With his power in the 15 Li realm, the difference was immense strength and speed, overwhelming them like a stone thrown 100 meters compared to their measly throw of 20. Their only hope lay in abandoning their bodies, relying on their divine souls to escape. But even then, the threat of annihilation loomed large. Among them, the mighty bear demon shifted uncomfortably, standing tall like a looming tower, its eyes locked on Li Hao as if trying to pierce through his essence. The 15 Li realm, what kind of force was this? The young man stood tall, exuding an air of unshakable calm, despite the chaos around him. His enemies, a terrifying bear demon, lunged with fury, its black flame morphing into a deadly dragon. But Li Hao's eyes saw through it all, his power slicing through the beast's fiery attack with effortless precision. His blade, imbued with the strength of his divine soul, cleaved the air, but the bear demon's skull was unyielding. Still, Li Hao didn't falter. In a single step, he appeared before the creature, his fist raising high. With a strike that carried the weight of an unstoppable force, he brought it down, smashing the bear demon into the rocks. Blood spilled from its throat, its terror palpable. Despite its immense strength, the bear demon could not withstand the sheer power of Li Hao, whose calm resolve proved to be more devastating than any beast might. The power unleashed by this young man sent shivers through the air, even startling himself. How could such a small, fragile body possess such overwhelming strength? With nothing more than a passing glance at the bear demon, he effortlessly drew the demon-slaying blade from the creature's skull. As his gaze swept the surroundings, the blade flickered into a shadowy streak and shot out. The divine soul scattered in every direction, didn't even manage to travel far before being hunted down by the blade. Although the demon-slaying blade alone couldn't harm them, the power of his own divine soul imbued within it was more than enough to tear their souls apart. Echoes of agonized screams filled the air, many cut short as their bodies collapsed lifelessly to the ground. The peak once filled with the presence of over 20 great demons, was now dominated by nothing but the bear demon. As its comrades had been cleaved open or lay lifeless, their souls dispersed miles away. A breeze rustled the trees, carrying with it the thick, suffocating stench of blood, making the bear demon gag. For the first time, the smell of its own mountaintop filled it with an overwhelming sense of nausea and terror. "Are you a grandmaster from the Tianren sect?" The bear demon stammered, its voice shaky with fear. As the youth approached step by step, the bear demon's eyes filled with dread. In their brief clash, it realized that even in the 15 Li realm, it stood no chance against this boy. The difference in power was vast and possibly so. A cold suspicion began to grow in its heart. This teenager might be a grandmaster who had somehow regained his youth. Li Hao moved closer, pausing to look up at the enormous demon still sitting helplessly on the ground. With a steady gaze, he asked, "Among those demons I've just slain, was the tiger robe immortal among them?" The bear demon's heart tightened as it connected the dots this youth had come seeking revenge for the tiger robe. "Tiger robe!" Hatred swelled within it as it gritted its teeth, answering, "He's not here, he's in the north." "The north?" Li Hao raised an eyebrow, his suspicion clear. "There are many more of your kind out there, don't lie." The bear demon flinched, but then quickly corrected itself. "I'm not lying. Tiger robe comes from Black Wind Mountain. He's cunning and strong, so he was sent to the north." Li Hao's eyes sharpened. "What is he doing there?" "We're planning to form an alliance with the northern forces to bring down the city of Kangyu," the bear demon said between heavy breaths, masking the true identity of the red eyebrow Taoist. Li Hao froze. Northern demons? His mind raced, as the Monster Suppression Department's reports had never mentioned any threat from the north, always a peaceful region. "How many demons are there up north?" Li Hao asked, his voice sharp. "About the same number as here," came the reply. Li Hao's gaze hardened, his voice cold as he pressed on. "Why target Kangyu City? Are you aware of the consequences of provoking Dayu?" The bear demon inwardly cursed, the bitter truth weighing heavy on its heart. Wasn't it always the way of humans to prey on the weak? Who could have anticipated that Kangyu City would harbor a monster like the one standing before it? But it couldn't speak such thoughts aloud. Instead, it forced a grimace, responding, "Though we are demons, we're simply trying to survive, much like how humans consume livestock." "It's the same principle." Li Hao's eyes turned to ice. The mention of food ignited a fierce surge of killing intent deep within him. Just for eating? Li Hao controlled his urge to strike, staring coldly at the bear demon, hoping for more answers. Sensing Li Hao's bloodthirsty aura, the bear demon trembled, trying to appeal to the logic of survival. "All creatures exist for survival, just like us. What's wrong with that?" Li Hao's eyes narrowed, his patience wearing thin. "I'm not debating right or wrong. I'm asking you, did you attack Kangyu City just for food?" He pressed, fury simmering beneath the surface. The bear demon hesitated, knowing it could never reveal the true reasons behind the attack, which had been orchestrated by the red eyebrow Taoist. "Without survival, we wouldn't risk everything like this," it continued, attempting to sound wise. "The heavens grant life to all beings. We all have the right to live, don't we?" Li Hao took a deep breath, asking one last question. "What about the tiger robe? What does it look like? Is it a tiger demon?" The bear demon was taken aback, disappointed that the human before it didn't grasp its philosophy, causing it to panic. "That's right, the tiger robe is a tiger demon, with nearly 1,000 years of cultivation." "Good!" Li Hao nodded, having gathered the information he sought. Before the bear demon could react, Li Hao suddenly lunged forward, his fist crashing into the bear demon's brow with such force that it shattered its brain. The bear demon's mouth opened in shock and disbelief, its eyes dimming as it collapsed to the ground, crashing like a giant stone. Debating right and wrong with a demon? Li Hao had no time for such talks. Above all, one's own stance was far more important. Surrounded by countless white bones, how could he ever say to the bear demon, "You're not wrong"? To hell with right or wrong, he was of the human race. After dealing with the bear demon, Li Hao noticed movement from a nearby cave. When he probed with his divine soul, he discovered 7 survivors, men and women, all in their 20s to 30s, with no children or elderly among them. The 7 prisoners were chained, their hands and feet bound, with the other ends of their shackles threaded through a gap in a massive stone. There was no way to escape unless the rock could be moved. They all seemed to have suffered from a terrifying experience, their faces etched with confusion and fear, some even numb, lost in a state of shock. With a quiet sigh, Li Hao summoned his power, commanding a stone to shatter the chains, freeing them. However, despite the physical shackles being removed, they still seemed trapped by invisible bonds. For a moment, they stood there, dazed and motionless, with no sign of attempting to flee. One of them seemed to remember something, shaking violently as they curled up on the ground, desperately clutching the broken chains and muttering over and over, "Please don't eat me! Please don't eat me!" Paralyzed with terror, they couldn't move. Li Hao remained silent, not one to offer comfort, deciding it was better to let them recover on their own. While they remained in their stupor, he turned his attention to cleaning up the outside. With a casual gesture, he controlled the objects around him, gathering the fallen demon bodies and neatly stacking them into a high platform as a tribute. As your unworthy disciple, all I can offer are these demons to commemorate your valiant spirit. With a flick of his wrist, Li Hao retrieved a wine gourd from behind him, unscrewing it and pouring the liquor over the bodies lying before the altar. The scene around him was drenched in blood and lifeless bodies. Yet his mind wandered to another place, one of serenity and warmth. The golden hues of the sunset bathed a familiar courtyard, where memories of moments shared with a companion played in his mind. He recalled the evening filled with poetry and wine, the day of quiet sorrow when his companion could not absorb the Foundation establishment elixir, and an autumn afternoon spent debating over a game of strategy as fallen leaves danced on the board. Li Hao took the last sip of wine, his voice barely a whisper, as he murmured, "Lin, cheers." With a heavy heart, he stored the gourd, drew his demon-slaying knife, and turned to leave. The forest loomed ahead, thick with the presence of demons thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. Standing atop a tree, his divine soul extending outward, Li Hao guided the knife through the forest with lethal precision. Demons, whether resting or roaming, met their end in a flash of dark light as he moved, cutting down all in his path. The dark light zipped through the mountains like a needle, tearing through the demons with terrifying precision. Sensing danger, the demons scattered in panic, but the light was faster than their fear. If an ordinary cultivator at the 15 Li realm had faced them, it wouldn't have been so easy, but Li Hao's control over his power far surpassed that of his peers. He hadn't even resorted to any special techniques. Tens of thousands of demons gathered at the mountain's base, confused and terrified, rushing to flee or reach the mountain peak for answers. Yet, before they could even reach the summit, their heads fell one by one. The entire mountain quaked as if struck by an earthquake, and the demons that had fled, barely a few miles away, were all slain. Blood flowed, staining the land and turning the earth into rivers of red. As his divine soul returned to his body, the dark light settled back into his hand. Li Hao glanced at it, noticing that after slaying tens of thousands, the blade had dulled. Had it not been for his divine soul's protection, it would have shattered long ago from the strain of cutting through the demons' thick bodies. With a dull-edged black knife in hand, he pressed forward, heading towards a region miles away, where demons, unaware of the events unfolding elsewhere, still roam near their dens. It was the perfect opportunity to eliminate them all. In the sky above, the golden light of Song Yueo's divine soul cut through the clouds, her physical form sneaking along the mountain range while her soul scouted the land below. She had already discovered numerous demon traces, though closer to Yu City, only weak, newly sentient demons lingered. These were no threat, easily scared off by hunters with crossbows. But the deeper she ventured, the stronger the demonic energy grew, clouding the mountains and forests in dense, suffocating fog. The Yu City guard wasn't wrong. Demons are gathering here, and it's unmistakable, she thought, her frown deepening as a troubling question surfaced. Why, when the situation was so clear, hadn't the Yu City guard reported the truth and called for help from the Xia family? She was lost in thought, unable to comprehend the situation. Did the guards in the city not fear a sudden attack from the demons? Or were the Xia family members unwilling to act, burdened by past grudges? If Kangyu City fell, and the common people suffered greatly, both the Yu City guards and the Xia family would bear responsibility. The complexity of it all left her with more questions than answers. As she ventured deeper into the Blackwind mountain range, the most formidable demons she encountered were those in the Soul Succession realm. She managed to avoid them, slipping through unnoticed. But then, a foul stench filled the air, causing her to halt. Her face paled as she cautiously reached out with her divine soul to investigate. What she saw left her in shock rivers of blood running through the forest, the water stained crimson, and demon bodies scattered everywhere. For a brief moment, she thought the stench was caused by demons harming humans. She never expected it to be the blood of demons. Her face reflected a mix of shock and doubt. What on earth had transpired here? With a brief hesitation, she decided to let her divine soul move forward in stealth. It wasn't long before she stumbled upon the bodies of some demons. A quick inspection revealed their wounds were still fresh, no older than an hour. Someone was slaying demons. The thought hit her like a thunderclap, sending a shock through her chest. Could it be another inspector from the Monster Suppression Department? There was only one such inspector in Kangyu City's department, stationed here temporarily to oversee the city, working alongside the defender of UA City. In her moment of awe, she pushed her divine soul ahead, hoping to meet the other individual. If they crossed paths, perhaps they could assist one another and better understand the unfolding situation. Is this conversation helpful so far? As Song Yueyao ventured deeper, her shock only grew. The path was littered with demon corpses, countless bodies stacked together in eerie silence. Her divine soul, scanning the scene, counted thousands of them, all meticulously fallen, as if a violent wave had passed through. Yet, there was something off. These demons were all dead. The sheer number of corpses suggested the work of a powerful force, a great demon perhaps. But where was it? Song Yueyao, having never faced the inspector, doubted her own strength to achieve such a feat, and the courage to try was absent. The deeper she moved, the more she found. Demons with massive forms, nearing the divine travel realm, all cut down in their prime. The consistency of the wound sharp strikes to their vital points left little room for doubt. Who could wield such power? As her divine soul advanced, the mountain loomed ahead. An ominous final destination in sight. At the mountaintop, a heavy demonic aura swirled ominously, resembling a thick cloud gathering in the sky. The dark mist felt unmistakably like the work of a great demon. And judging by the color, it was clear there was more than one. Her heart pounded in fear, urging her to flee, but the sight of demon corpses scattered across the mountain's base, paired with the eerie silence at the summit, sparked an impossible thought within her. Gathering her courage, she silently sent her divine soul soaring, keeping it concealed as it gazed at the demon clouds below. The sight that met her frozen expression was beyond belief. At the peak, a platform stood, covered with the bodies of over 20 great demons, laid out meticulously. Even as a breeze stirred, she could see their solidified eyes, still filled with the terror they had felt in their final moments. Speechless, she stood, her mind reeling from the shock. The number of great demons was far beyond what she'd anticipated, and what struck her even harder was that they were all dead. Who could have killed them? The possibility of a certain inspector crossed her mind. It was unimaginable. How could it be? They too were at the divine travel realm. Even the most talented individuals in this realm would find such an act nearly impossible unless they hailed from the 15 Li realm. Was this a general sent by a powerful family? Or perhaps a wandering expert from some unknown sect? As Song Yueyao snapped back to reality, her gaze caught sight of several figures slowly emerging from a mountain cave. They were all from the human race, looking utterly disheveled, as though they had narrowly escaped death. Without hesitation, she rushed toward them, reaching the mountaintop and questioning, "Were you captured by demons?" Expecting to find solace in her Monster Suppression Department uniform, she was stunned when the survivors recoiled in fear at her presence. Their eyes widened with terror, as if they had encountered a demon themselves. "Please, don't capture us," they begged, collapsing to their knees, crying in despair, pleading for their lives. Song Yueyao stood frozen, her mind struggling to keep up with the bizarre scene unfolding before her. After a brief moment of disbelief, she snapped, "What nonsense are you spewing? I'm an inspector from the Monster Suppression Department, here to rescue you." The survivors, trembling in fear, continued to grovel and beg for mercy, their voices filled with desperation. Song Yueyao could only watch in silence, wondering if their minds had been shattered by the demons. If that was the case, there would be no useful information to gain from them. She thought the expert who had vanquished the demons must have already figured out that these survivors had lost their sanity. But something seemed off. These demons had only just fallen. With that realization, Song Yueyao dismissed the survivors, focusing instead on using her divine soul to scout the area. It wasn't long before she found a blood trail, with the bodies of demons scattered along the path. She followed it swiftly, and as she perched herself on a tree branch, she suddenly stopped. Something ahead caught her attention. In the open expanse of the mountain forest, the corpses of demon apes lay scattered, a tribe once thriving now wiped out. Blood stained the earth, and in the midst of this devastation stood a young man dressed in the ordinary dark uniform of a monster suppression officer. In his hand, he wielded a battered demon-slaying knife. Song Yueyao froze in shock. She had expected a powerful figure, perhaps a high-ranking officer from a renowned family, but never did she imagine it was someone from the Monster Suppression Department, especially not a mere agent. As her gaze fell on his face, something stirred in her memory. It looked so familiar. Had she seen him this morning? Song Yueyao, who usually overlooked the faces of others, now felt an unfamiliar pull. Her memory was sharp, and she quickly recalled that this young man was one of the 5 newcomers who had reported to the Monster Suppression Department that morning. He was also a disciple of the Tan Palace. As she thought about his identity, Song Yueyao's mind flashed back to the youth with a wild rabbit she had seen earlier at the Alpha Academy. The person in front of her now was him. But now, in his profound robe, he felt distant, almost unfamiliar. At that moment, Li Hao noticed the woman chasing after him. He turned his head slightly, their eyes meeting for a brief second. Li Hao gave a slight nod but continued walking, his demon-slaying blade in hand. However, Song Yueyao was frozen, as if struck by lightning. That tilt of his head, that profile, so familiar. Memories of that cave flooded her mind to the fleeting side profile. Is it him? She wondered. Song Yueyao stood frozen in disbelief. Could this be the same person who had secretly crossed the Mo River? She couldn't fathom it, but as she looked around at the fallen ape demons, it dawned on her she hadn't made a mistake. Who else, if not the person before her, could have passed through the Mo River? With a swift leap from the treetops, she hurried after him, calling out, "Wait!" Li Hao paused, glanced back, and with a quiet response addressed her. "Senior sister?" The way he said it brought an unexpected sense of security to Song Yueyao, easing the tension she had carried for so long. Without thinking, she asked, "Did you kill these ape demons?" Though she already had a strong hunch, the question escaped her lips. Li Hao remained silent for a moment. Was her eyesight so poor that she couldn't see there was no one else around? Amidst a scene of blood and death, there's no need for detective skills. Even the simplest minds could have solved it. The glint in Li Hao's eyes catches Song Yueyao's attention, and her face flushes slightly, realizing the question she asked was rather obvious. Her gaze shifts to the demon-slaying blade in his hand, bloodstained, worn, and jagged, telling tales of countless battles fought. "Did you slay the great demon atop the mountain too?" she asks, studying him intently. Li Hao gives a slight nod. It was nothing more than a group from the Divine Traveling Rank and a 15 Li Realm member. Nothing impressive. Song Yueyao's heart skips a beat as she asks, "How old are you this year?" Li Hao chuckles softly. It's impolite to ask a young man's age. In the midst of such carnage, he can still joke, and yet, despite his nonchalant tone, she can tell he's no older than 14 or 15. The Tan Palace had set an age limit of 16 for their newest recruits. A 15 or 16-year-old at the 15 Li realm? She was struck with a shocking realization, as if a heavy blow had been dealt to her. She was so close, just 1, 2, maybe 3 steps away from reaching that realm. A top genius of Tan Palace, she possessed a 9th grade battle body. Before reaching the Grandmaster realm, her battle body's talent would significantly assist her cultivation. But now, seeing such a vast gap between her and the young prodigy, she felt left behind. The last time she heard of a prodigy like this, it was about a legendary figure from the Li family, but back then, it felt like just a story. Yet here, standing in front of her, was the very person who seemed to embody the myth, making it feel almost surreal. "Are you here alone? How did you find your way here?" Song Yueyao couldn't help but ask, her gaze fixed on his pristine robe, barely stained with blood, while his demon-slaying sword looked battered, as if it had been through countless battles. It seemed as though he was still cutting through demons with ease. "Senior sister, are you interrogating a prisoner?" Li Hao replied helplessly. Song Yueyao, taken aback, rarely cared so much about others but found herself scrutinized instead. "There's a demon around, and since I'm free, I came to check," she explained. Li Hao, noticing her awkwardness, softened his expression and explained briefly before turning away, his sword still in hand. Talking could wait. The task at hand was far from over. He leapt effortlessly to a tree branch, conjured his divine soul, and wrapped it around his sword, beginning his patrol. Song Yueyao watched, her eyes narrowing as she realized that no words could truly capture what her eyes had seen. Her face grew pale. She had always believed her grandfather's words were just exaggerated praise, something the masses had inflated. But now, she could see with her own eyes there were indeed extraordinary talents like this in the world. How could it be possible? With her 9-rank battle physique, considered a genius, she could barely even catch a glimpse of this young man's back. Before long, the black sword returned to him, its edge slick with blood. With a glance at the cleared mountain range, he turned, ready to erase the remaining demons. "Wait for me!" Song Yueyao finally came to her senses, rushing to catch up. As she caught up to him, she stared at his profile, her voice curious. "It was you who passed the Mo River Challenge back at Tan Palace, right?" Li Hao shot her a quick glance. Though the palace had issued a reward for those who passed, he felt a strange guilt, especially since the exam had been meant for the other new students. "Yes, it was me," he replied simply. "How did you do it? The palace master even issued a decree for a reward, yet you didn't claim it?" Li Hao stood, deep in thought, as Song Yueyao's curiosity bubbled over. How had he managed to succeed? He couldn't explain it himself, feeling as if it all just came together, a strange flow guiding him forward. Maybe it was the black-robed scholar's pride, knowing he was outmatched, fleeing in panic before the final stroke. Li Hao was lost in this thought when Song Yueyao snapped him back to reality with a single word. His focus sharpened as he realized she was waiting for an answer. "Was it to claim the Red Sky precious sword?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. With a calm confidence, he added, "I am of the 15 Li realm." The words hit her like a hammer, stunning, confusing, and painful all at once. Was the Red Sky really beneath him? The sensation gnawed at her, frustration creeping in, but just as the tension lingered, a beacon of distress smoke shot up into the sky, shattering the moment. Li Hao stood, deep in thought, as Song Yueyao's curiosity bubbled over. How had he managed to succeed? He couldn't explain it himself, feeling as if it all just came together. A strange flow guiding him forward. Maybe it was the black-robed scholar's pride, knowing he was outmatched, fleeing in panic before the final stroke. Li Hao was lost in this thought when Song Yueyao snapped him back to reality with a single word. His focus sharpened as he realized she was waiting for an answer. "Was it to claim the Red Sky precious sword?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. With a calm confidence, he added, "I am of the 15 Li realm." The words hit her like a hammer, stunning, confusing, and painful all at once. Was the Red Sky really beneath him? The sensation gnawed at her, frustration creeping in. But just as the tension lingered, a beacon of distress smoke shot up into the sky, shattering the moment. Song Yueyao stood there, perplexed, watching Li Hao's flight. His speed surpassed any cultivator from the 15 Li realm she had ever encountered. Yet, why hadn't he taken her along? Frustration bubbled inside her as she clenched her teeth and stormed off through the jungle, determined to reach the city herself. In Kangyu City, a place of influence held by 3 powerful families, including the century-old Liu family, news spread of an impending demon attack. The once peaceful city had not seen such an assault in nearly a century, though some older residents still recalled the horrors of the last demon encounter. As the patriarchs of the 3 families received the reports, the shock was palpable. This wasn't just another rumor. The city had been at peace for so long, but now the past forgotten terrors were stirring once more. "The reports can't be wrong, old Zhang. Go and check it out quickly," one of them urged. The patriarch of the Liu family, Lu Shunqing, immediately sent a loyal retainer to uncover the truth behind the rising chaos. The other 2 families quickly followed suit, dispatching their own people to investigate, bringing back confirmed reports. A horde of demons, numbering at least 40 to 50,000, had appeared from the north. Among them were mountain goblins and eerie spirits, all seemingly under the command of a powerful great demon. These demons had seized control of major roads, blocking trade routes, and leaving behind a trail of devastation. The southern routes had been hit hard, with 2 escort agencies destroyed, and precious jewels hidden in grain shipments found scattered on the roads. With the great demon at the helm, it was clear that the demons were preparing to strike the city. Could it be the same group from the Black Wind Mountain Range? Are they mad enough to challenge us? Don't they fear the wrath of the Xia family? What is Yu Shuhong doing? Has he angered the Demon King? Is this conversation helpful so far? The entire city was on edge as rumors spread about the Xia family's whereabouts. The three major families, rattled by the idea of 40 to 50,000 demons approaching, were already in turmoil. With Kangyu City's military strength barely surpassing 20,000, the overwhelming numbers of the demon army spelled disaster. More troubling was the idea that a great demon, likely of the divine travel realm, commanded Themen unimaginable force. To the north, ominous dark clouds rolled in, tinged with red, signaling the arrival of a storm that no one could ignore. As the purple smoke signals pierced the sky, every gate was sealed, and soldiers clad in battle armor took their positions on the walls. From atop the city, the sight of the demonic clouds swirling with terrifying speed was enough to make even the bravest soldiers tremble. Are they really crazy enough to attack the city, they wondered? The storm was coming, and there was no escaping it. The city defense army was in disbelief. Dayu, though remote, wasn't at the farthest border. Had the invaders truly crossed the line, daring to provoke the royal family's wrath? In all the years of service, the demons had been a distant threat, rarely seen, and never in such overwhelming numbers. News of the attack spread fast, with the city gates sealed and chaos flooding the streets. Families were confined to their homes as the sound of hooves filled the air. Some feared the demons might breach the defenses. Others complained about the disruption to their businesses. Wealthy families sent messages offering aid, offering funds and supplies to help repel the attack. In times of crisis, people's true nature came to light. Meanwhile, in the city lord's mansion, in the grand mansion's secluded backyard, a dark underground chamber stood, resembling a dungeon. Yue Shuhong, tall and slender in his Confucian robe, was lost in thought as he gazed at a painting. Half of his face was veiled in shadow, lit only by a flickering oil lamp. The painting depicted a woman in a delicate green dress, her beauty exquisitely captured, almost lifelike. Suddenly, a wisp of black smoke slithered from the shadows behind him, twisting into a towering figure. The man, with a broad face and glowing red eyes, appeared. Yue, still thinking about her, huh? He smirked, his voice tinged with mystery. Yue Shuhong remained motionless, a faint stir of emotion crossing his face as he exhaled softly. Tiger Robe, how long has it been since we first met? He asked. The broad-faced man's response was unwavering. Over 20 years? 20 years. Yue Shuhong murmured, his voice a whisper of time's passage. 53 this year. At 30, I entered the divine travel realm, full of youth and ambition, stationed here as the city's protector. Now, 2 decades have flown by. Once, he was a man of action, sword by his side. Now, he stood empty, handed. The broad-faced man next to him nodded slightly, his gaze tinged with a mix of envy and admiration. Your human race, born intelligent, rising above all others. In mere decades, you ascend to the divine travel realm. Meanwhile, we demons spend centuries drawing from the sun and moon's essence to reach the same height. I envy you. Yue Shuhong's lips curled into a subtle smile. But Tiger Robe, have you seen how few of us live to be hundreds of years old? The broad-faced man's eyes flickered with disdain. Reaching the divine travel realm grants nearly 1,000 years of life. Yet your people throw it away. Look at the divine general mansion. They could live peacefully, but they choose to fight and die on the borders against us. Demons. In the end, they all perish young. Yue Shuhong couldn't hold back a laugh. Indeed, perhaps that's the difference between humans and demons. For the countless children of Dayu and the vast lands across the 19 provinces, every inch of earth has witnessed the blood of these brave souls. Because some have fallen, many more shall survive. The broad-faced man's eyes narrowed slightly. Surely you don't intend to be as foolish as those idiots. Yue Shuhong turned, his once gentler face now lost in the shadows beneath the soft glow of an oil lamp. His voice, barely a whisper, seemed to drift into the night. For the last 2 decades, I've fed you human flesh, giving all I could to meet your needs. Why must it end this way? The broad-faced man looked at him with a deep gaze, sighed, and murmured. I too wish it were otherwise, but the red eyebrow Taoist has emerged from his seclusion, starved. And this journey, it's not just to sate our hunger. The true target is Kangyu City. The Xia family must fall. The Xia family? That's right. You sought their help, but they can't come. They're facing their own struggles and can't afford distractions. If Kangyu City falls while their defenses are down, it'll lead to their downfall too. If that emperor sitting on the throne gets angry and punishes the Xia family because of it, all the better. The broad-faced man spoke softly. So, Kangyu City is beyond saving. Yue Shuhong took a deep breath, his eyes closing for a moment. So, this was the demon's game. Yue, I'm here to ask you to open the northern gate of the city. The fall of Kangyu City is inevitable. If you open the gate, I'll speak a few good words for you to the Red Eyebrow Taoist and give you a way out, the broad-faced man said. Yue Shuhong opened his eyes, a faint smile on his lips. Thank you, Tiger Robe. Move quickly, the broad-faced man ordered, his voice firm. I'll ensure your safety. Yue Shuhong nodded, his gaze sharp as he turned away, not to the desk, but toward the weapons rack. Yue, the man called. Tiger Robe! Yu responded, his voice unwavering. I see. The red in the man's eyes deepened, and a sly grin curled his lips. You truly break my heart with this. Yue chuckled, a cold glint in his eyes. I am saddened too, sad for you. His tone was almost playful. I'll use your tiger head to brew the finest wine, a tribute to our 2 decades of friendship. Thank you, the broad-faced man replied, his teeth elongating, sharp as knives. And I'll savor yours, slowly. As the atmosphere grew tense, the divine souls of the cultivators began to manifest. Above Yue Shuhong's head, his divine souls swirled into form, while behind the broad-faced man, a fierce and massive tiger began to take shape. So it's finally here. A voice suddenly echoed beside them. Without warning, a crack split the air above the cellar, and a figure slowly descended, standing between the two forces. Cloaked in dark attire and wielding a broken black saber, it was Li Hao, who had rushed back to the city. Chapter 67, Follow Me to Slay the Demon, began with Li Hao's swift return to Kangyu City, where the ominous sight of dark swirling clouds from the north caught his attention. Yet, instead of heading straight into the storm, he made his way to the city lord's mansion to assess the situation. Within, his divine soul uncovered a disturbing sight. Monster Suppression Department? At the same moment, Yue Shuhong and the broad-faced man, noticing the dark attire of Li Hao, were momentarily stunned. They had recognized him as one of the Monster Suppression Department, though he appeared to be the most ordinary of their members. Do you like this personality? Li Hao's presence was anything but ordinary as he strode into the room, easily standing out among those around him. Yue Shuhong frowned, struggling to place the young man before him, unsure where such a powerful figure could have emerged from. Li Hao, however, showed no interest in the city defender and instead turned his gaze to the broad-faced man, his voice cold and unwavering. So, you're the one they call Tiger Press? The infamous Tiger Robe Immortal? The man smirked, his grin sharp and cruel as he replied, That's right, I'm your Tiger Lord. Looks like I've earned a bit of fame outside Kangyu City. Li Hao's hand tightened around the hilt of his blade, slowly deforming the metal. With a steady breath, he finally spoke again, his words laced with quiet fury. 7 years ago, you ambushed a captain on the national road of Chi State. Do you remember that? The broad-faced man's expression shifted, a cold glint appearing in his eyes as he raised an eyebrow. Ah, that man from the Northern Yan Army. What's your connection to the Li family? At the acknowledgement, the intensity in Li Hao's eyes grew uncontrollable, his killing intent now surging forth. My surname is Li! The Tiger Robe Immortal's eyes narrowed, his energy flaring like storm winds as he glared past Li Hao, locking onto Yu with menace. He's heard everything. Now what, Yue? But Yue's voice was sharp as blade against bone. Your pact with the demon race is no longer in shadows. Even if you slither away today, your end is sealed. You know what the Great Yu dynasty does to traitors, don't you? The Immortal's gaze turned brutal. Then here's my offer, slay the brat, and I'll overlook your earlier hesitation. Silence stretched like drawn steel until Yue's lips curved in a bitter smile. To follow you any longer would mean I truly am a fool. Either you die or I do. Remember when we first allied? Same day, same end your words. The Immortal spat, sneering with disgust. You worthless humans think you're fit to share my fate? Do you like this personality? As the words still lingered in the air, he lunged at Li Hao with ferocious speed, the spectral tiger soul roaring behind him a guttural thunder that could crush weaker minds into unconsciousness. But the sound barely stirred a strand of Li Hao's hair. His gaze remained dark, unfathomable, like the depths of a moonless lake. Only when the massive figure of the tiger robe immortal closed in did he raise a hand 5 fingers splayed, pressing coldly against the man's forehead, slamming him down with such force that the stone beneath shattered like brittle ice. The clash lasted no longer than a heartbeat, too swift for Yue Shuhong, whose sword hand froze mid-motion. In the silence that followed, the demon-slaying blade, now reversed in Li Hao's grip, pierced cleanly into the side of the tiger robe immortal's neck. Staggering, wide-eyed, he looked up in disbelief. This strength, this precision, how could it be? But the only answer he received was the cold glint of Li Hao's eyes, and a whisper as soft as falling ash. I won't let you die so easily. As the words left his mouth, his blade spoke louder, slicing cleanly across the tiger robe immortal's neck, flaying the skin from shoulder to back with surgical precision. It wasn't just violence, it was art, a technique so refined it could only be called mastery, skin peeling and stewing, flawless and cold. The immortal's scream tore through the silence, guttural and bestial, as black and yellow fur erupted from torn skin, his true tiger form unveiled. The chamber seemed to shrink under his monstrous presence, but just as his spirit surged forward in rage, Li Hao's own divine soul rose to meet it. Mirroring his form, the soul raised a single hand and struck. One palm, one burst. The tiger demon spirit staggered, its head shattered, reforming thinner, dimmer, weaker. In its flickering eyes, raw fear. An unspoken truth settled over the scene. This opponent was utterly outmatched. Do you like this personality? Li Hao's gaze was sharp and cold, his voice steady. How did you kill Lin? Today, I'll make you pay. Slowly. With every word, the broken sword in his hand, glowing with the power of the divine soul, revealed the true form of his opponent, the tiger robe immortal, trapped under his foot like a beast pinned beneath the king of the mountains. The tiger robe immortal writhed in vain, struggling to escape as Li Hao's eyes flashed with a golden light. The power of the tiger press surged through him, amplifying his strength and presence. It was as if the very earth itself trembled beneath the weight of a 1,000-year-old tiger. Its majesty and ferocity felt even by the fiercest of beasts. The tiger robe immortal quivered in fear, his will crushed, unable to resist. Trembling, he begged, "Spare me! I was wrong! I will serve you!" But Li Hao, unfazed, merely raised his sword. With a swift, skillful motion, he peeled the tiger skin from his enemy's body. The act as cold and precise as the vengeance in his heart. The tiger robe immortal writhed in agony, its once dominant form now trembling on the blood-soaked earth, too broken to flee. For over 2 decades, it had towered with pride, but now was nothing more than a shuddering heap before Li Hao's blade. Yue Shuhong stood frozen, stunned by the savagery unfolding, tendons severed, bones exposed, rivers of blood staining the soil. The beast's pleas echoed, but Li Hao's eyes held no mercy. Half an hour of silent torment passed before he finally ended it, severing the tiger robe immortal's head with clinical precision. Plunging his shattered sword into its mangled corpse, he yanked the head up by its fur, lifeless eyes staring in terror. His voice cut through the silence, cold as steel. 7 years ago, when the Li family was ambushed, did you take part in it? Yue Shuhong flinched. The youth hadn't turned, but his presence chilled the air like frost. Knowing death waited patiently behind him, he gave a hollow smile. I may deserve death, but I would never betray the loyal. Li Hao's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. Then what about feeding innocents to demon swaz that you're doing? Yue Shuhong's lips curled into a bitter smile as his gaze turned distant, reflecting a sorrowful acknowledgement of his deeds. Yes, it's true. I sacrificed humans to demons, betrayed my own people, he confessed with a hollow self-mockery. At first, I only sent condemned criminals as disposable offerings, but as time passed, when prisoners ran low, they pressured me, until I had no choice but to send bandits and even innocent civilians. Li Hao turned toward him, his eyes filled with a quiet intensity. Why? Why ally with demons? He asked. Yue Shuhong sighed deeply, regret painting his features. When I first took this position, I aimed to rid the realm of demons and purify our world. But soon I realized human power has its limits. The demons are too many, too fast to eliminate. The Great Yu dynasty, once invincible, has grown weak in recent years, and its decline is undeniable. He looked away, eyes clouded with the weight of unspoken burdens. I pleaded for help, begged for reinforcements, but it all fell on deaf ears. Who could save Kangyu City? If I didn't provide the sacrifices, more would die. So, I bore the sins of the entire city just to protect the people. He paused, then added in a voice tinged with hopelessness. I know my end is near, and I expect nothing. But if it's possible, I wish to be buried here, in Kangyu City. That would be enough for me. I only ask for that one thing. His voice trembled as he knelt heavily, tossing aside the city guard's black hat. Tears traced down his cheeks, tangled hair clinging to his face in the dim lamplight. Li Hao, standing above him in silence, let the man's sorrow wash over him like cold rain. Then, with a voice colder than judgment itself, he finally spoke. You do deserve to die, but your sins will be judged by the court, not by me. He turned, gaze cutting through the stillness. The great demon approaches. If you still have strength left, then come with me and slay it. With that, he placed the tiger helm on the table and disappeared into the shadows. Elsewhere, in the dying remnants of a mansion west of the city, a courtyard once proud now wept with moss and rot. Blades drawn, black-clad figures led by Kui Fan slipped through the ruin in search of what moved unseen what whispered beneath the silence. The demons had vanished without a trace, leaving only silence in their wake. Just when it seemed like the search was over, a gray sparrow appeared, flying in from nowhere. Surprised, Kui Fan swiftly reached out and caught it, finding a scroll tied to its leg. Unrolling the paper, he read it, his expression shifting dramatically. What's wrong? Yue asked, noticing the change. Kui Fan gripped the scroll tightly, his face grim. The patrol's done. We've just received word a demon has attacked the city. We need to assemble at the West City Defense Post to plan our next move. A demon attack? The others were left in shock, utterly stunned by the news. Even though they had lived deep within the territory, the weight of a demonic siege was something no one could ignore. Then let's hurry! Li Yuanzhao reacted first, his voice sharp with urgency. Kui Fan's face flickered with disbelief. How could demons be attacking the city? Was the intelligence flawed? They had to see it for themselves. Let's go, he ordered, striding toward the Western District. But before they could take another step, two figures plummeted from the sky, landing with force that made the air tremble. Qian! Yuanzhao! Wei Feng and Li Fu had arrived, both already aware of the demonic attack on the city and the ominous cloud of demonic fog forming in the north. The situation was critical. Ren Xianxian's eyes widened in surprise upon seeing Uncle Wei, not expecting him to follow her. Her sharp mind quickly pieced it together. He had likely been shadowing her all along, watching over her. A frown tugged at her lips, a sense of helplessness settling within her. She had come out to experience the world, yet why couldn't her father trust her to handle things on her own? How could she ever grow if she was always protected? Li Yuanzhao, equally stunned by Uncle Fu's arrival, soon realized the reason Uncle Fu's concern for Hao. Where's Hao? He asked, his voice thick with worry. Li Fu scanned the surroundings, but when he couldn't find Li Hao, he immediately asked with concern. Li Yuanzhao, ever straightforward, responded, Hao ate too much at lunch and went to the outhouse. Li Fu's frustration grew. At such a crucial time, where is he? His impatience was evident. Kui Fan, sharp as ever, quickly deduced that these two figures were the guardians of the younger generation, and felt a twinge of envy. With respect, he asked, Elders, I just received word of a demon attack on the city. Is it true? Li Fu, clearly irked, shot him a look. What? You don't trust your own city's reports? Kui Fan, feeling cornered, couldn't shake the unease growing within him. The intelligence was true. This was an unprecedented calamity. Demons are really attacking. How many? Ren Xianxian asked urgently, her concern mirrored by the others. Wei Feng sighed, his eyes troubled. These demons have been planning this for a long time. You've just arrived at the wrong moment. Xianxian, come back with me. I can guarantee your safe escape from the city. Ren Xianxian, however, shook her head, determination in her eyes. I'm staying. I came here to grow stronger. This is the perfect chance. Uncle Wei, with your strength, you can definitely fend off the demons. You're in the 15 Li realm. That's more than enough to defend a great city. Wei Feng's expression grew more complex. I've sensed deep demonic energy within that mist from a power in the 15 Li realm. There might be more demons hiding in the shadows. If I were alone, I'd take the risk, but you, I can take care of myself. Don't worry about me, Ren Xianxia insisted, her resolve firm. Wei Fang shook his head, his voice firm yet filled with resolve. The number of demons is overwhelming. My duty, entrusted by my master, is to protect you. Ren Xianxia, frustrated, struggled to hide her vexation. On the sidelines, Li Fu's expression grew complex as he heard Wei Feng's words. He quickly spoke to Li Yuanzhao, "Go find Hao and stay with him. Don't leave his side. I'll send a message back to the mansion. It's a shame this area is controlled by the Xia family, but we can't afford to be concerned with that now. I must head north to help, otherwise the city might fall." With a serious look, Li Fu turned to Wei Feng. "Brother Wei, I would be grateful if you could watch over the two young ones from the Li family. This favor will not go unacknowledged by our family." Wei Feng nodded without hesitation. The Li family's gratitude was a rare gift. Taking care of one child is just as challenging as managing three, Wei Feng remarked, eyeing Li Fu with a serious expression. "So, are you truly planning to head north and face the enemy?" he asked. Li Fu, his face firm with determination, replied, "As a member of a military family, how could I retreat in the face of demons? Though this area falls under the jurisdiction of the Xia family, I cannot stand idly by if they appear." Wei Feng's expression turned grave as he clasped his hands in a gesture of respect. "Your righteousness is admirable. Go ahead while I live. I will ensure their safety." With a nod of approval, Li Fu felt assured. Turning to Li Yuanzhao, he added, "Yuanzhao, behave yourself and don't wander off fine Howard." Li Yuanzhao nodded energetically as Li Fu leapt toward the north, his figure growing smaller in the distance. Watching his departure, Wei Feng turned to Li Yuanzhao. "Let's go find your brother." Li Yuanzhao, worried about Li Hao's safety, quickly agreed, but his eyes shifted to Kuei Fan. With a wry smile, Kuei Fan proposed, "Shall we first meet and then head to the west of the city?" Wei Feng, however, shook his head firmly. "Defending the city is your responsibility. I am only tasked with protecting the young mistress and the young master of the Li family. I won't get involved in anything else. As for the assessment credits, do as you see fit." His tone sharpened, especially on the words, "as you see fit." Wei Feng had no ties to the military family, and he was free to come and go as he wished, unbound by duty. Kui Fan was caught off guard, hastily responding, "The patrolling mission is over, and everyone has performed admirably. I'll grade them fairly, but..." Wei Feng scoffed coldly, sensing Kui Fan's attempt to tie him down to the city. Ready to snap back, he was interrupted by Ren Xianxian's forceful declaration, "Uncle Wei, I want to help defend the city. I won't let these villagers be slaughtered by demons." The tension was palpable as Ren Xianxian, her expression resolute, suddenly drew her sword, laying it across her arm. Her gaze pierced through Wei Feng with unyielding resolve. "Uncle Wei, if you dare knock me out and drag me away from here, I'll sever one of my arms when I wake up." Wei Feng's heart tightened as he saw the fierce determination in her eyes. She was young and naive, still soft-hearted in this cruel world, but her stubbornness was unmatched. With a heavy sigh, he nodded. "All right, I'll accompany you to assess the situation. But if things go awry, you must listen to me. Otherwise, I'll take you back myself, and the master will deal with it." Ren Xianxian's eyes softened, a flicker of understanding in them as she nodded. "Okay." The two of them immediately set off, leaving the mansion behind as they headed toward the monster suppression department. Upon arriving, they were met with an eerie silence. The headquarters had long been deserted. A storeroom attendant revealed that all the personnel had been dispatched to the city's outskirts under the orders of the city defense army. The monster suppression department, once bustling, now lay empty and vulnerable. "Do you like this personality?" "How? How?" Li Yuanzhao's voice echoed through the monster suppression department as he frantically searched for Li Hao, but to no avail. Meanwhile, a yellow smoke signal rose from the city walls, signaling that the battle had begun. Ren Qian's expression darkened. "There's no time to waste. Let's head west. Uncle Wei, use your divine soul to help track down Li Hao," she instructed. Wei Feng nodded, though his calm demeanor remained unshaken. The elder from the Li family, whom he'd encountered on the road, had yet to show up. It seemed that Li Fu had taken the risk of leaving, likely under the watchful eye of another elder. This was someone who could easily handle two 15 Li Realm serpent demons. If they chose to intervene, the city's demonic crisis could be resolved swiftly. Under the leadership of Wei Feng and Kui Fan, the group ascended the western city wall. With the display of his strength, Wei Feng was courteously invited by the officers of the city defense army and led the others to the top. As they arrived, a sea of demons emerged from the wilderness, charging towards the city. These demons, seemingly allied with northern forces, were poised to break through the city's defenses. The sight of thousands of these massive, terrifying creatures, some swirling into demonic mists midair, sent a chill through even the veteran soldiers of the city defense army. The strange, sinister laughter of the demons echoed through the air, sending tingles across everyone's skin. "Uncle Wei, have you found Hao yet?" Li Yuanzhao asked urgently, his face pale from the overwhelming sight. "Do you like this personality?" As Wei Feng was about to respond, his gaze shifted unexpectedly. He turned his head just in time to see two figures rapidly approaching them, one after the other. The first figure, a young man in black robes, made him freeze. If he wasn't mistaken, it was the same kid from the Divine General Mansion D, one he'd been keeping an eye on. But now, this boy was riding the wind? With wide eyes, Wei Feng watched as the young man soared through the air, accompanied by the city guard, Yue Shuhong. As Li Hao landed gracefully in front of them, his eyes met the astonished faces of Li Yuanzhao and the others, who were previously under the intimidation of the demon crowd. Yue, completely shocked, stared at Li Hao in disbelief, his mouth agape. "You're here too?" he exclaimed. Li Hao, equally surprised to encounter them in the western part of the city, wondered why they had come all the way here instead of staying on their patrol mission. He cast a quick glance at Kui Fan, who wore a face of deep suffering, clearly reluctant. Then, Li Hao turned his gaze to Wei Feng, a familiar figure who had been following them closely. "You!" Wei Feng stood frozen, utterly shocked. As a cultivator at the 15 Li realm, he could immediately tell that the two individuals who had descended from the sky weren't led by Yue Shuhong, but by the young man in front of him. Could it be that the one he and Li Fu had been watching over all this time was actually at the 15 Li realm? A realm even higher than Li Fu's? Who was really the one being protected here? Wei Feng felt his mind going blank. Having ventured from the mountain in the divine travel realm, he believed himself well versed in the Jianghu, having met many extraordinary geniuses. Yet, a person this young at the 15 Li realm? Unbelievable! They said the descendants of the Divine General Mansion were monsters, but even monsters hadn't reached such a level, had they? "The demons are coming!" a voice interrupted, panic creeping in. As the demons drew closer to the city walls, the tension heightened. The commander, a seasoned warrior at the 8th or 9th level of the Soul Succession realm, shouted, "Fire the arrows!" A barrage of specially crafted arrows rained down, each one imbued with power to repel demons and ward off evil. Many demons faltered under the assault, but the majority pressed on undeterred. With a commanding roar, the commander ordered, "Demon suppressing formation!" In a flurry of robes, over 10 mystic masters ascended the platform, each summoning their divine souls, their energies intermingling to maintain balance and cast a powerful protective array. The demons, now less than 100 meters from the walls, continued their relentless advance. Meanwhile, Li Hao, observing the approaching threat, glanced at the sword in Ren Xianxian's hand and calmly said, "Let me borrow your sword for a moment." Ren Xianxian snapped out of her daze, her eyes locked on Li Hao, still processing the overwhelming cultivation power he'd just displayed. As he reached out to borrow her sword, she instinctively gripped the sheath tighter, asking, "Do you even know how to use a sword?" She had never seen him with a weapon during their journey. Li Hao gave a calm nod. "A little," he replied, admitting that his rushed entrance into the Jianghu had left him without a sword. If he ever returned, he'd make sure to bring the treasured sword his second elder had given him. Ren Xianxian hesitated, knowing that a swordsman's weapon was their life, and she cherished hers deeply. Yet, faced with the dire battle ahead and realizing his incredible cultivation skills despite the lack of a weapon, she reluctantly handed it over. With a smooth motion, Li Hao drew the sword, its blade gleaming like the calm autumn water as it left its sheath, vibrating as though awakening, emitting a sword cry. White light flickered along its edge, humming like a living entity. Li Hao stood poised in midair, sword drawn, as he hovered 10 meters beyond the city's towering walls. His presence instantly captured the attention of the soldiers, their gazes frozen in shock. To defy gravity like this was no mere feat, it signified mastery of the 15 Li realm. Their city's protector, still bound by the divine travel realm, could not even dream of such power. With a whisper, Li Hao spoke the words, "Bright moon, rising." 5 years of relentless training had led him here to the third and most powerful technique in the Endless Sea sword manual, Bright Moon Rising. A technique second only to the ultimate move. In an instant, the soldiers watched in awe as a luminous moon seemed to rise from the very palm of Li Hao, filling the air with an overwhelming sense of light and power. Viết lại lời thoại nội dung sau bằng tiếng Anh một cách hấp dẫn, phong cách manhwa style comic, dạng review hoặc tóm tắt, không thêm bất kỳ chi tiết nào khác, không gạch đầu dòng, không comment, không gì cả, không quảng cáo, hạn chế các từ, cụm từ vi phạm chính sách YouTube, loại bỏ các tên riêng, chi tiết không phù hợp với kịch bản gốc, chỉ duy nhất một lựa chọn kết quả, trả lại kết quả cho một đoạn văn duy nhất, không xuống dòng, không gạch đầu dòng. The bright gleaming moon hanging over the western city battlefield cast a mesmerizing glow, captivating everyone's attention. But as it vanished, the soldiers suddenly snapped back to reality, realizing they were still in the middle of battle. Yet, just as they were preparing to release their arrows, they froze in shock. The area before the city wall was no longer teeming with demons. Instead, it was littered with the remnants of their corpses, blood staining the earth like a splash of paint. In one swift strike, nearly an entire mile of demons had been wiped out. The battlefield, once filled with the terrifying roars and shrieks of the invaders, now lay eerily silent. Even the distant demons, who had been charging full force, stopped in their tracks, stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Among them, powerful demon leaders beings of the same level as the Tiger Robe Immortal could only look at each other in disbelief. In the midst of battle, a young figure stepped forward, his eyes glowing with an unwavering calm. As he hovered by the city wall, sword in hand, he became an embodiment of an untouchable sword immortal, exuding an aura that rendered him both terrifying and majestic. With a single glance at the halted demon horde, he threw his sword with perfect precision, the blade flashing like a streak of golden light. In an instant, over a dozen demons fell, their lives snatched away before they could react. The once formidable attack crumbled in a moment, and the demons scattered in terror, their courage shattered. On the city wall, soldiers stood frozen, eyes wide in disbelief, unable to look away from the youth whose silhouette would haunt them for the next 20 years. His flying sword, a golden thread of death, continued its deadly course, cutting through demons and even a divine travel realm great demon who had tried to escape. With a single swift motion, its head rolled from its body and its divine soul was extinguished. To him, all demons, whether common or great, were no different. Do you like this personality? With a single strike, the entire demon horde was obliterated. Watching from the city walls, Wei Feng stood in awe. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't match the speed or power of Li Hao. The speed of his sword control was blinding, at least 2 to 3 times faster than anything he could muster. His mind flashed back to the Jiao demon, taken down by a dark beam of light exactly the same. Was this the mysterious figure they had all pledged allegiance to? What kind of being was Li Hao really escorting? As the demons scattered, their once formidable cloud vanished instantly. Without a great demon leading them, the lesser demons were no match for the city's defenses. Li Hao pursued them relentlessly with his flying sword, cutting down thousands of demons, leaving only a handful injured or dead. The rest fled into the forest, hiding like cowards. Li Hao glanced at them with indifference and moved on, not wasting another moment on these minor threats. He turned and ascended back to the city's towering wall, raising his hand to summon his sword. The light flickered as the blade flew back into his grasp. Scanning his surroundings, he addressed Wei Feng. "Where is my Fu? Li Fu?" Wei Feng blinked in confusion before hurriedly responding, "Li Fu asked me to watch over. Cough. Li Fu has gone north. That's where the demon army is headed." North? Li Hao's gaze turned sharp as he peered towards the northern horizon. A dark, oppressive cloud of demonic energy already hung over the wall there. His expression darkened. Wrapping the sword with his divine soul power, he swiftly propelled himself toward the north, prepared to strike. Kangyu City was a square, no more than 50 miles in diameter. Positioned in the west, he was not directly in line with the north, but still within his reach. With his flying phase ability from the chessboard, he could extend his range even further. With a focused gaze, Li Hao's sword shot forth, his attention fixed on the looming darkness in the north. Do you like this personality? Standing beside him, Li Yuanzhao, Yu Wei, Ren Xianxia, and the others gaped at Li Hao, utterly speechless. The one most shaken was Li Yuanzhao. He had never imagined that Hao, who spent his days painting in the courtyard, fishing with the older master, or sneaking into the kitchen to bake pastries, could be so powerful. The 15 Li realm? He was stunned, feeling the weight of the revelation. How would his aunts react if they knew? Surely, they'd be overwhelmed with excitement. But how had Hao cultivated? He had never seen him practice swordsmanship. If it weren't for the familiar gestures and speech, Li Yuanzhao might have thought that Hao was someone else entirely. The air around them thickened, and Ren Xianxian, Du Yue, and the others stood there, lost in confusion. They were still wandering in the Zhou Tian realm, far from even beginning their soul succession. Li Hao had already surpassed 2 major realms, leaving everyone in shock. This wasn't just the level of a prodigious demon, it was sheer madness. Ren Xianxian thought back to her father's words. With an 8th layer battle body and an understanding of the sword since she was 10, she had stood unrivaled among her peers. Soon, when she reached the great accomplishment in swordsmanship, she'd be on par with other top geniuses. But now, what was this? Looking at the young man before her, her breath quickened. The memory of that round of bright moon stayed with her, never fading. Young master. Yue Shuhong, who had once seen Li Hao easily defeat the Tiger Robe Immortal, had now become accustomed to such feats and bowed hurriedly. I'll head to the north of the city. Li Hao nodded, his gaze already locked on the flying sword in the north. Yu Shuhong rushed ahead, while the sword light weaved skillfully through the demon horde. In the sky above, countless arrows shot through the air. Li Fu revealed his identity, commanding the battle alongside the city's general. Within the demon ranks, 8 grotesque figures revealed their true forms, encircling a man in yellow robes, his 2 bright red eyebrows hanging down to his chest. The minor city was not a challenge, with only a few beings from the divine travel realm to deal with. But the air was thick with unease as they wondered why the giant strength true god had not arrived yet. The demons eyed the eastern horizon, expecting some disturbance, but all seemed calm. Eliminate them first, then we'll speak, one demon growled, eager to take the lead. A demon, resembling a flying eagle, dove toward the city, ready to impress. On the city wall, a flash of sword light appeared. It was Song Yueyao, returning just in time. She hadn't found Li Hao, but had to defend the city from the threat up north. Seeing the flying eagle, also of the divine travel realm, she responded with a fierce strike. The eagle retaliated, spitting out a cloud of demon mist, shrouding the city wall and casting a demon arc. This caused the demons to swarm the wall, and the archers, now without clear targets, had no choice but to draw their swords and fight. The battle rages as the demons, relentless and ferocious, close in on the red eyebrow Taoist. In the blink of an eye, Song Yueyao finds herself under siege from 2 powerful divine travel realm demons, her defensive stance shifting in an instant. Meanwhile, Lu Shunqing, head of the Lu family and the chief family leader, rush to defend the demonic suppression envoy, but they are quickly overpowered by the overwhelming number of divine travel realm foes. Realizing the grave danger, Li Fu draws his sword and joins the fray, his strength 3 times greater than most cultivators in the same realm, cutting through the enemy with unmatched force. But even his mighty presence draws the demons' attention, and they quickly encircle him. The battle intensifies, and despite his remarkable prowess, Li Fu finds himself struggling. With a brutal swipe, one demon, resembling a monstrous mantis, rips through his armor, and another, a towering beast, crushes him with a devastating blow. Li Fu's vision fades, his body collapsing onto the ramparts, unconscious and unable to continue the fight. As the battle raged on, the commander, realizing the dire situation, desperately called for reinforcements. With his own power stuck at the perfection stage of the soul succession realm, he knew he was no match for the looming threat. But before he could act, a terrifying great demon, resembling a monstrous toad, landed in front of him. Its body was covered in grotesque lumps and spikes, and with a slight tremor, it unleashed a deadly green poison from its hide, corroding the armor of the city guards it touched. The screams of the dying soldiers filled the air. Enraged, the commander drew his sword, preparing to fight to the death. But just then, a cold light cut through the chaos. The toad demon barely had time to react before a flying sword pierced through its skull, causing blood to explode from its head. In an instant, its divine soul was eradicated as well. Stunned, the commander stood motionless, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. High above, the red eyebrow Taoist observed the flying sword, and his indifferent expression flickered with surprise. Could it be someone from the Jia family had arrived? As the battle raged on, the commander, realizing the dire situation, desperately called for reinforcements. With his own power stuck at the perfection stage of the soul succession realm, he knew he was no match for the looming threat. But before he could act, a terrifying great demon resembling a monstrous toad landed in front of him. Its body was covered in grotesque lumps and spikes, and with a slight tremor, it unleashed a deadly green poison from its hide, corroding the armor of the city guards it touched. The screams of the dying soldiers filled the air. Enraged, the commander drew his sword, preparing to fight to the death. BD, despite the imminent danger, he remained unshaken, spitting out a crimson flying sword that sliced through the incoming light of another blade. The red sword, seemingly aware of the intent to kill, abruptly altered its course, rushing towards him. The sword hummed low, like a dragon preparing to strike, as if it sought to sever the enemy's weapon. But in the blink of an eye, the flying sword surged forward, darting past the red sword and heading straight for the Taoist. The Taoist's eyes widened in shock as panic spread across his face. His prized object manipulation technique, renowned for its exceptional control, faltered in the face of such speed. The flying sword closed the distance with terrifying swiftness. Instinctively, the Taoist turned to flee, calling his red sword back, but it was too late. As his body twisted, his robe fell away, revealing a massive, ancient red-scaled dragon coiled beneath its two long brows marking its age. The dragon's true form was vast, but to strike it, the flying sword had to pierce its tough, scaly flesh. Just then, a cold light cut through the chaos. The toad demon barely had time to react before a flying sword pierced through its skull, causing blood to explode from its head. In an instant, its divine soul was eradicated as well. Stunned, the commander stood motionless, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. High above, the red eyebrow Taoist observed the flying sword, and his indifferent expression flickered with surprise. Could it be someone from the Xia family had arrived? As the battle raged on, the commander, realizing the dire situation, desperately called for reinforcements. With his own power stuck at the perfection stage of the soul succession realm, he knew he was no match for the looming threat. But before he could act, a terrifying great demon resembling a monstrous toad landed in front of him. Its body was covered in grotesque lumps and spikes, and with a slight tremor, it unleashed a deadly green poison from its hide, corroding the armor of the city guards it touched. The screams of the dying soldiers filled the air. Enraged, the commander drew his sword, preparing to fight to the death. BD, despite the imminent danger, he remained unshaken, spitting out a crimson flying sword that sliced through the incoming light of another blade. The red sword, seemingly aware of the intent to kill, abruptly altered its course, rushing towards him. The sword hummed low, like a dragon preparing to strike, as if it sought to sever the enemy's weapon. But in the blink of an eye, the Flying Li Hao had no intention of relying solely on brute force, especially since the sword he wielded was borrowed. With a swift turn in the air, the sword flared to life, its glow intensifying. The second technique of the Endless Sea, Severing River, was unleashed. Unlike the group-based Tidal Surge and the Bright Moon Rising, this move was a precise, single-target strike. A roaring river seemed to echo across the heavens, not made of water, but the splitting of air and natural energies. The sword's momentum fell, and with a terrible screech, the red flood dragon was cleaved into 3 pieces. Its massive head was split in 2, and the divine soul that tried to flee was swiftly consumed by the sword's power. Thud! 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 G-Sword surged forward, darting past the red sword and heading straight for the Taoist. The Taoist's eyes widened in shock as panic spread across his face. His prized object manipulation technique, renowned for its exceptional control, faltered in the face of such speed. The flying sword closed the distance with terrifying swiftness. Instinctively, the Taoist turned to flee, calling his red sword back, but it was too late. As his body twisted, his robe fell away, revealing a massive, ancient red-scaled dragon coiled beneath its two long brows marking its age. The dragon's true form was vast, but to strike it, the flying sword had to pierce its tough, scaly flesh. Just then, a cold light cut through the chaos. The toad demon barely had time to react before a flying sword pierced through its skull, causing blood to explode from its head. In an instant, its divine soul was eradicated as well. Stunned, the commander stood motionless, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. High above, the red-eyebrow Taoist observed the flying sword and his indifferent expression flickered with surprise. Could it be someone from the Xia family had arrived? The massive dragon's body crashed from the heavens, plummeting into the sea of demons below. Its searing blood splashed onto the creatures, causing chaos as they screeched in panic. The once coordinated wave of demonic assault unraveled into disarray. Meanwhile, atop the city wall, where the mighty demons of the divine travel realm clashed fiercely with Lu Shengqing, Song Yueyao, and the others, a sudden scream echoed through the chaos. The red-eyebrow Taoist had fallen, cleaved by a flying swordie's fate sealed in an instant. The moment the battle-hardened demons turned to witness the terror unfolding, the world itself seemed to pause.